Episode 117, Danger at Mormon Crossing. Hello and welcome to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki G. I'm here to inform, entertain, and delight your ear holes about all things off-road for the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Because that's really about how long the battery life I have left on my laptop. Plugging it is flashing danger. Alright, so before we start the show, I have some legal mumbo-jumbo to go over, which I don't have to do because I have enslaved AI interns now. So enslaved AI interns, take it away.
You're listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast, the podcast for the off-roader with a short attention span.
You can follow the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but never on TikTok. You can listen to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on whatever the hell you're listening to it on now, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Odyssey, Podbay, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, and on YouTube.
Got something to say? We would love to hear from you. Just contact the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast at 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. That's 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. Or leave a comment on our YouTube channel.
Alright, thank you, AI interns. You're worth every penny. What did we ever do before the world of AI? I want to go over some upcoming off-roading events that I plan on attending this year. June 6th, I have the Western North Carolina Jeep Fest at Maggie Valley. I plan on going there. Went there last year with a buddy. Had a great time, and plan to go this year. And then June 12th, it's only for one day, which is kind of a bummer. But the Southwest Virginia, now that's Southern West Virginia, not the state of West Virginia. It's kind of confusing. But the Southwest Virginia Jeep Invasion at Tazewell. On July 12th, I'll be there. Went there last year, had a great time. Actually did a little exploring up in that area and camped out. And, tell you, it's a beautiful area. That is now one of my favorite destinations to go to is the Southwest Virginia area. And August 1st through the 3rd at Toledo Jeep Fest up in Toledo, Ohio. I'll be there again this year. I think we'll make 5 years in a row. Been up there. I always have a great time. August 21st, the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. Again, that's one of the biggest Jeep gatherings in our area. Didn't go last year, didn't go the year before. I don't know if I'm going to go this year. I'm kind of turned off because it is just so darn crowded. But if you're interested in Jeeps, that's the place to go because every vendor will be there. Everybody Jeep related will be there. And then again on October 17th through the 19th, the All-Wheel Drive Fest in Uwharrie. Yeah, I know Jeeps aren't really all-wheel drive. This is more towards the Toyota, Honda overlanding type people, even the Subaru crowd. But a friend of mine who, I think he still has his XJ, but a friend of mine that has an XJ who's into Hondas and stuff now, wheels got a beautiful Ridgeline, wheels all over in his Ridgeline. He hosts it, and I go there to support him. And it is always a hoot. And I have a great time every time I go. Alright, so now let's get into today's show. I want to explain the title. Danger at Mormon Crossing was a book I read when I was a teenager. I used to read a lot of those little teen books that you get off the bookmobile. I can't say it was my favorite, but it's one that stands out. Was Danger at Mormon Crossing, where these two twin brothers who are avid hikers and campers. They were out in, I don't even think they say where Mormon Crossing was. I'm assuming Utah, Montana, somewhere out there. And they saw something they weren't supposed to see, and they were trying to get away. And, well, anyhow, the title stuck with me, Danger at Mormon Crossing. I'm going to look it up and see if that book is available. I'm sure it is. I'm going to reread it and watch it be something totally different than what I remember. But anyhow, so last week I talked about going up to Tennessee and that I had a good time, but it kind of ended abruptly for me. And so here's the skinny on it. I left Charlotte, North Carolina. I had a whole agenda planned out. I made routine. I had stops planned where places I wanted to see. And then I left the pavement and I drove for about 3-4 hours, and then my Jeep stalled. Shut off. I was dead in the water. And I was stuck in my Jeep for about 17 hours before a tow truck could come get me and tow me out of there. Now I'm going to explain what happened or how it happened. I left Charlotte. I was on paved roads, made a few stops, left pavement on Forest Service roads, nothing too gnarly. Took a little side roads that weren't on the map. Did a whole lot of exploring. Had a good time. Finally made it out off the mountain. I was on paved roads heading to the next mountain road when the Jeep stalled. And it stalled and I coasted into a parking lot and I called AAA and I don't know what miscommunication happened, but it was about 17 hours before they can get to me. And I got to tell you, I didn't mind because I was all set up for 3 days of camping. So I had a lot of food and water with me. And I just kind of set up a chair and the weather was beautiful. And I just set up a chair in a parking lot, made dinner, had a good time, watched a bunch of Netflix. I think I watched the whole damn Netflix. Every movie on Netflix that was available, I think I watched that day. Curled up in the back of the Jeep, went to sleep, and then about 5 in the morning, I was awakened by the tow truck. But that's a whole different story. I really wasn't upset, and even the tow truck driver made a comment about how chill I was. I was so happy that I dodged a bullet. My Jeep would have stalled a half hour earlier, an hour earlier. I would have been on a back mountain road that was hardly paved, and if I was on one of those little offshoot trails, it could have been days before somebody come across me. Hiking out of there, I have no problem hiking during the day, but like when my Jeep stalled, it was getting close to dark, so I probably would have stayed with the Jeep at night and then hiked out in the morning. But then trying to get a tow truck up, it was a bad situation, but it could have been really bad. I dodged a bullet and got lucky. I did a few things right on this trip that could have helped me out in this situation. First thing is I left a detailed list of my route, my waypoints, and where I was planning to turn off. I left coordinates, everything. I was going to go down this road, highway, blah, blah, blah. Turn down this road onto Forest Service Road, blah, blah, blah. Get to this intersection and turn north on that. I left the detailed instructions on where I was going and the coordinates. And as a matter of fact, it's still pinned on my refrigerator. And this has been a couple of weeks ago, so I need to take it down in case I go somewhere else and they're not looking in a different state for me. What I also did right is I was well stocked with food and water. Of course, I was planning on a 3-day trip, but even if I was at the end of my 3-day trip, I would have had food and water left over. I always make sure I have a couple of MREs and water and a water filter. Luckily, when my Jeep broke down, I coasted into the parking lot. There was a river running right at the end of the parking lot, so I could have got fresh water if I needed it, because I have my Sawyer Mini with me. If you don't know what a Sawyer Mini is, it's just a water filter like Life Straw. There's a bunch of different ones. They're relatively cheap. Get one, throw them in your Jeep. They don't take up much room. And winter gear. I also had, it was a nice warm night, but I also had my heavy sleeping bag, and I had the buddy heater with me, which I don't want to use while I'm sleeping in my Jeep. I brought my tent with me, but since I was in a parking lot, I just slept in the back seat of the Jeep. I could have hiked about a mile to a hotel that was in town, but I could see it, and I was really thinking about it, but I thought I didn't want to leave my Jeep unattended in a strange place, so I just slept in the Jeep. And I gotta tell you, nobody bothered me. I had a few people talk to me, ask me what the problem was. Even a couple of people tried to help me get running, but like I said, I wasn't too worried. Thank God I have AAA. And now for the bad side, what I did wrong was, first of all, I went alone. If I had somebody with me and the Jeep broke down in the mountains, I could have just hopped in their Jeep and rode into town or do whatever. Another person with me, we could have towed my Jeep to pavement and then call tow truck. Or if I had somebody with me, I could have properly diagnosed my Jeep. It was very difficult to do while I was alone. You might be asking what was wrong with my Jeep? The coil. The coil failed. And I had a spare coil with me, but I didn't think of changing the coil. It was very difficult for me by myself to diagnose the Jeep. I couldn't turn the key and see what was going on under the hood at the same time. I tried to have some guy help me. It didn't quite work out. But I couldn't diagnose what was wrong. I could hear the fuel pump priming. I had fuel in the rail, so I kind of thought it was spark. I had a crank position sensor with me, so in the middle of the night, while I'm waiting for the tow truck, I got to bug up my ass to crawl underneath it and change the crank position sensor, which not hard to do, but man, I do not want to do that in the dark again. So the moral of the story is, whether you're light wheeling or heavy wheeling, have an emergency exit plan. Somebody else to help you would be great. This is another reason why having a solid communication would be great. Like I said, I was lucky. I broke down in town in a parking lot. I had cell service. I was able to call my wife and tell her, hey, I'm broke down. I'll be home when I can. And in constant communication. But if I was out in the middle of nowhere with no cell signal, I could have been stuck. So that's another good reason to have something like the Garmin InReach. Although I heard a rumor that the new iPhones have satellite technology. So I am going to look into that. If I could just get a new phone and keep in constant communications, that would be great. And with the way technology evolves, in a few years, we're all going to have satellite technology. There's going to be no more dead zones and none of that stuff. We'll be telling our kids about how bad cell service was when we were their age. All right, so that's about all the time I have for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, this is Nikki G saying, wheel what you got and be happy.